A big part of President Trump's second-term agenda is now overshadowing much of everything else. His campaign of retribution against his political foes, shattering democratic norms, and unprecedented in modern history. As the president makes clear this weekend, he has only just begun. He said yesterday he was sending troops to protect ICE facilities in Portland, Oregon, which he called, quote, war-ravaged. He said he authorized them to use what he called, quote, full force. My excellent panel is back. Just to look at this graphic of the people that he's been going after in various ways, and many of them through his own federal agencies, the Department of Justice, and the like, and threats to go after them. Pretty much all either Democrats or people that he has viewed as a perceived foe in some way. Yes, people say that Trump said that he was going to do this on the campaign trail, and he's doing it. It is still stunning to see a president using his power the way he is to go after his political enemies.
Yeah, I mean, it's become a cliche, but it's another one of these things that's shocking but not surprising, right? Look, on the Comey thing in particular, I think this is a bigger step than some of these others. Not to say that some of the other things they've done were fine or normal. I think Jim Comey is sort of a fastidious popinjay and did a lot of damage to our politics and to the Justice Department. He also in no way deserves to be selectively prosecuted for this sort of pretextual nonsense. And the signal that it is sending within the Justice Department, I think, is pretty profound. And the signal it is sending to other critics in sort of a chilling effect of, look, we will just make something up, essentially, in order to get payback against you. That's going to have real consequences going forward.
What are you hearing about inside the White House about what's next here on this? I mean, he talked about Portland. You could compare it to this, to what's happening in these other issues. But Portland is part of his effort to send the National Guard into various cities and states. Been Democratic cities here now for the most part, even when Democrats are resisting it. But also there's the prosecution side of it as well. There are two different efforts that he's doing in going after blue states, blue cities, and Democrats and perceived enemies. What are you hearing from inside the White House about all this?
Well, they view them as two separate issues as well. I'll start on the prosecutions, particularly what we saw with Comey this week. Everyone knew that this was going to happen, particularly once we saw Lindsay Halligan, someone who was the president's former personal attorney, someone who they consider a loyalist. She traveled around. She was just at the U.S. Open, for example, with the president. When she was put in that role of, the interim attorney of the Eastern District of Virginia, they knew this was going to happen. And what I'm told is, yes, we know that the president has been urging this, not only from our conversations that he's been pressuring Bondi to bring charges against Comey, but he also said so publicly last weekend on social media. But he has lamented behind the scenes for months that he faced prosecutions and indictments when he was out of office. He still has a lot of resentment over what happened during his first term about being impeached twice. He has said he believes these people deserve to face the same type of treatment. And it's not only accountability. Yes, he talks about how this is justice, but of course it is a sense of revenge. And he thinks his supporters are thirsty for it. Now, when it comes to Portland and these other cities, I actually think Portland's very interesting because from what I'm hearing is that the protests on ICE facilities have given them kind of the open door to go in and send the National Guard. I'd remind you that he really wanted to do that with Chicago, but did not. And that was because I was told his advisors were saying the legal headaches that will cause of sending the National Guard into a state where you obviously have the Democratic Governor J.B. Pritzker saying, no way, we're going to fight this tooth and nail. They said just it's not worth it. And that's why he turned his sights to Memphis. Portland is an interesting kind of in the middle because he believes that these protests, even though, of course, we're hearing the same things from the Democratic mayor and governor saying we do not need the military in our streets to deal with this. He believes that's, kind of an example of, OK, we can use that as a reason for doing this.
Yeah, interesting. And just on the whole Justice Department idea. Remember, there used to be some sort of dividing line between the White House and the Justice Department. Yes, sir, certainly the Justice Department does engage in politics and the like, but not being directed by the president to go after opponent X and opponent Y. And even Pam Bondi and Lindsay Halligan, when they were speaking publicly, they did reaffirm that they believe the Justice Department should be independent.
I believe that the Justice Department must be independent and must act independently.
It's up to the sitting president to ensure that our criminal system does not unravel into retaliatory or political prosecutions of former presidents and other government officials.
Yeah, I mean, they said the right things, but
And that was also at Bondi's confirmation hearing.
Yeah, and right. And so, there are a lot of senators who are concerned publicly and privately that what they heard from some of those Trump loyalists in those confirmation hearings is not how how it's playing out as they actually carry out their duties. And we know there are some Republican senators who are concerned about that. I think for people like Pam Bondi, she's in a tough spot because she does want to be loyal to President Trump. She wants to keep her job. I think she likes her job. And she was publicly pressured to carry out the indictment of James Comey. And then a couple of days later, look what happened. So that perception is there. And I know Pam Bondi's aware of it. I think also there are a lot of Republican officials people like Pam Bondi, want to be perceived as like a good lawyer, a good attorney general. And now she's risking her reputation for what happens after Trump. And I think that's on a lot of their minds.
I think that ship has sailed with Pam Bondi, but I take the point.
I mean, the whole thing was just so remarkable because Trump pressured for these charges to go forward. Then they pushed out the U.S. attorney. He puts in Trump, a loyalist, one of his former personal attorneys, Lindsey Halligan, doesn't have experience certainly as a prosecutor. And these charges then were filed 5 days later. I asked Senator Mike Rounds about this on Friday, and he said that, I said, do you have any issues about this? He said, he's a Republican senator from South Dakota. He said, we're going to stay in our lane, Congress's lane, and the president's going to stay in his lane. But are you sensing any apprehension from Republicans when they see these kind of actions, especially if the shoe's on the other foot and a Democrat becomes president?
I mean, you heard the Senate Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley, who has stood against Trump several times this year already on things like the arcane blue slip process, letting Democrats have some buy-in on judicial nominees. Grassley seemed like he was okay with the Comey prosecution. He didn't raise any red flags about it. So I am not sensing that sort of like that would be what would perhaps change the course of this is, do you have members of your own party who are saying, I'm not going to support anything you do until you change course, until you stop trying to go after your enemies, things like that. We're not hearing that at all.
No, we're not hearing that. We haven't heard that for the last 10 years.
No, we haven't. The other thing, sometimes I have to stop myself is we're reporters here. We're used to prying out information that is hard to get, right? All this stuff's just happening in public, and it's just so different than I think maybe reporting in Washington was 10 years ago, when you would not hear about these things and see them on social media playing out in public.
Yeah. I mean,
So I didn't see the Mike Rounds interview, but if the way you characterize it is right, I assume it is. That is some thin gruel, right? This idea that the Republicans in the Senate or in the House are staying in their lane. The Congress's lane is the first branch of government, is the supreme branch of government, is like an 8-lane superhighway, and they've turned it into like a bike lane. And they're just gonna stay in this little narrow thing. And the idea that the president can shut down agencies, control spending, declare military actions without congressional buy-in. I'd have a lot more respect for Mike Rounds' argument about staying in their lane if they were actually doing something in their lane rather than just sort of being cheerleaders.
I would say the lane has been wiped out completely, perhaps, especially in the second Trump term.